Hey, what's up? I'm Jason Howell, and I'm here with the Toshiba Excite 13 with a 13.3-inch display. It's a huge tablet. You can get for $650 the 32 gig version, or for $750 the 64 gig version. First, let's dive into the specs. The Toshiba Excite 13 has a 13.3-inch display, 1600 by 900 resolution. It weighs 2.2 pounds and measures in about 10.1 millimeters thick. It's powered by a Tegra 3 quad-core 1.5 gigahertz processor with 1 gig of onboard RAM. There are 2 speakers down at the bottom, an SD card slot, full-size SD card slot for a maximum of 32 gigs of extended storage, and it's running Ice Cream Sandwich. All right, let's first take a look at the design. There's a subtle rounding of the edges here, as well as kind of on the bevel, that really makes it comfortable to use over long periods of time. The grippers on the back are actually really handy. It makes sure that the device doesn't slip out of your hands. Found that really nice. Plenty of ports and slots for expandability if you need to have those. At 2.2 pounds, it starts to feel a little bit heavy if you're holding it in your hand all the time. Now for the big differentiator of the device, that is obviously the size of the device. Typing on the keyboard in landscape is actually really difficult to do if you happen to be holding the device like this. However, if you place it on your lap and use it as if you were using a hardware keyboard on your laptop, it's actually a breeze to use. The keys are about the same size as they are on your laptop, if not a little bit bigger, so it's easy to punch out those long emails pretty quickly. This is really meant to be a home use tablet. I think that's how Toshiba is marketing this, meant to be something that you might find in your kitchen. They actually include this stand, which is a really nice inclusion. It allows me to do what I'm doing for this review. As well, it has a way that you can lay it down for typing as if it were a keyboard. Very handy, and this would allow you to have this propped up in your kitchen with a recipe on it, or propped up to watch a movie. All right, so the display itself. The resolution, I'd say, is only okay. The pixel density is low at 138 points per inch, and I noticed it pretty quickly, especially in the Roboto text that you find in Ice Cream Sandwich devices, a very narrow, fine text. And that's just one example of how the text can kind of break up due to the pixel density. Video playback, most of the time I'd say the videos that I watched, if they matched 16:9 screen ratio, looked pretty good. Outside of that, when it's doing its own scaling, it can get a little rough around the edges. Same goes for games, actually. Riptide is fantastic on this device and it looks great. But when I'm playing an included game that came stock with the device, Reckless Racing, it didn't look so great throughout the entirety of the game. Now, the developer might partially be to blame for not scaling it properly to the device, but it's unfortunate that they include it with the device because it really shows off how something that's improperly scaled to the display can look. As for Ice Cream Sandwich, pretty close to stock, minus a few minor changes, and that's really good to see. And basic operations seemed pretty smooth. Browsing, on the other hand, everything just seemed slow and clumsy. I even installed Chrome, and that didn't seem to improve it a whole lot. But pinching to zoom in and out and scrolling through, it was just a very blocky experience. I was not very thrilled with the camera performance on this tablet. The 5-megapixel rear-facing camera with LED flash rendered pictures that were just really blocky when you brought it onto your desktop and looked at it on a different display. And the camera was slow, especially in low light situations. Good light, it seems to take pretty rapidly. That was a little slow. But low light situations, I'd hit to take the picture, and maybe a couple of seconds later, the flash would suddenly blink and it would finally take. So that was a little unfortunate. It's also capable of recording 1080p video, but quite frankly, the frame rate was just extremely jumpy on playback. The front-facing 2-megapixel camera is serviceable for video conferencing, but again, video is pretty jumpy on that camera as well. All right, so let's take a look at the pros of the device. Gaming is actually very engaging on the large screen and amply powered. This is great for media consumption, and the included stand makes this an excellent home companion device. And now the cons. The screen size can certainly make apps and games more difficult to use. Somewhat awkward to hold and operate over long periods of time. Camera performance leaves a lot to be desired. And you have to admit this tablet is pretty pricey. Overall, I commend Toshiba for trying something new, but this size of a tablet is really only going to appeal to a particular group of people. So having said that, I'd say try it. You might be part of the group that thinks that a 13-inch tablet isn't too big, but you won't know until you pick it up and check it out for sure. There's definitely space for this size of a tablet. You can check out my reviews on another show I do all about Android at twit.tv/AAA. Thank you so much for checking out my review of the Toshiba Excite 13.